Hey everyone. Have you ever accidentally made a soap that looked like Velveeta cheese? I have. And I wasn't trying to make Velveeta cheese or anything that looks like it. My goal was to make a soap using yellow Illite Clay. And I did. And it looks like Velveeta cheese. Um, you'll see it when I unmold it. And some interesting looks it has, but it's still a good soap, and it works for the project I've been working on with my clays in melt and pour soap series. I've been creating a set of clay soaps for a project I'm doing, and as I do that, I have been sharing with you the different properties of the types of clays I'm using and talking about that a little bit as I go, talking about how much clay can you add to melt and pour soap, how much is too much, why would you want to add too much or not too much, all those things. And excuse me, I'll be doing that a little bit more as we wrap it up, and it's not going to be kind of completely wrapped up. The final kind of finalizing video is just going to be a general stopping point. I will probably come back and add more clay soaps later. In fact, I have two that will be after the lather video, which is not this one. It's the next clay soap video I make will be the lather videos. Many of you have been waiting for that. And I'm hoping that you'll find it informative and worth your while. That's when we'll do a little bit more talking about why wouldn't you want to add more clay if it sets up as a soap. And we will double check and make sure they all set up as soaps. I mean, the ones that you've seen so far all have, and this one does too. I'm assuming. I have to go back and check on it. You'll see it at the lather test, but I'm 99.9% sure it's going to. Another note with talking about yellow illite clay, is for all clays, and that is when you're adding clay to melt and pour soap, it is going to extend the setup time. You're going to need to let it set up longer, particularly if you use glycerin, which I recommend for mixing it. I have a kind of a little side video that's a little small project I did. You might see glimpses of it in this video because I did record them at the same time. But I don't go into detail about anything. Just I've I know there are several people who use distilled water to um, to disperse their clay, and I'm not saying you can't. I don't recommend it. And it's not so much about not adding water to melt and pour soap because that is pretty much a no-no. Although I know there are some water-based products that can work sometimes. I mean, we're going to test all of this eventually, but it just doesn't get the lumps out. It doesn't uh, disperse as easily to me as it does in glycerin. Um, I have not done it with alcohol, so I might give that a try at some point. But as poorly as it did in water, I'm not real hyped for that one. I didn't even, well, yeah, I might have kept the footage of what happened when I added water. I'm not sure. But anyway, let's stick to this video. So this one starts off life as a detergent free goat milk soap base that I purchased from Wholesale Supplies Plus, Crafter's Choice, my favorite brand of soap. I'm not sponsored at all by them. I just love their soap bases. Um, I really feel so many people ask me, how do you keep your soap open so long? How do you keep it melted so long before you have to heat it up again? And this is the same answer I give every time. I mean, there are other factors, but it's the brand. The melt and pour soap that is made by Crafter's Choice has a lower melting point and therefore stays liquid quite a bit longer than other soaps that I have used. I have not tested every soap in the world, but it gives me a lot of working time and I really like it. Also, I like the way they make my skin feel, so I stick with those for the most part. We will be doing some work with some Stevenson soaps down the road, and playing with some combinations of things. But right now, I'm adding a tiny bit of fragrance to that little tiny bucket you see, or maybe I already did add it. I just added like a drop or two because that soap is going to stay white. It's going to be kind of an accent color in this yellow soap that I'm making, yellow clay soap. And I'm going to make it in kind of one of those little cubes. It's kind of like a half loaf. If you use those 8-inch purple loaves, which are my favorite to use, I have some larger ones, but I really like those purple ones. And it basically is a 4-inch mold, 4-inch long by 3.5. Might be a little bit more than 3.5, but it's not an exact 4 by 4, which is kind of what it's advertised as, but that's a lie. um, and I'm pretty sure I just got this one off of Amazon, and which is fine. It makes it's perfect for what my needs are, so I don't mind so much. And really does emulate kind of half of my purple mold. Apologies up front if this gets real glitchy, which it looks like it's doing right now. I'm not sure what's going on. I think it's my internet, but I'm not sure if it's my internet on at this point in time when I am doing my editing, because I do my editing with an online program, or if it is happening at the recording time in the recording area I use. I'm not sure. Anyway, I apologize for the glitches. It's I there's nothing I can do about it at this point. The stuff you just saw me pour in or squeeze in, I did 3 milliliters of Litsia cubeba or Litsia cubeba, however you say it. I've heard many different pronunciations, which is also Mei Chang essential oil. That is my fragrance of choice for this soap. If you remember the clay soaps I'm making, I'm working to do a set of soaps that are free of artificial fragrances and free of artificial colors. So we're using clays as the colorant and essential oils. We're using them sparingly because they're essential oils and they can harm your skin. And I'm trying very hard to choose essential oils that stick well in soap, particularly in melt and pour soap. And this one definitely has a reputation for that. If you have not smelled this essential oil, it's lovely. It is very lemony. It's a lovely lemon type fragrance. And I've used it many times in a variety of different products. I've never used it in a clay soap. So that's what I'm doing with this one. I used it at about 0.5%, maybe even a little less than that. So to, real quick, what I'm doing here. I dump in a single cube of the detergent-free goat's milk soap because I wanted to cool it off a little faster. I have that little tiny pitcher set aside with the white soap, which is s- starting to set up as I'm working with this other one, and it sets up the way I wanted. I wanted it to kind of set up in a semi gelatinous, gooey kind of way. Looks kind of gross, but it does a nice job of staying separate from the other soap type, the other color, and makes it kind of a swirl ish. Um, it's not my favorite swirl the way this turned out, but it works. I just needed some of the other soaps I had looked like a little bits of clouds were kind of floating at the top, and that's what this is. That's what this comes turns out to be. Um, it's just a slightly different approach to it. You will find that the detergent-free soaps, with or without clay, will also take longer to set up than your regular soaps, your regular melt and pour soaps. And so I'm taking advantage of that and allowing it to set up to a point where I can make sure it's not blending in. It's just kind of, I don't know, swirling-ish, marbling a little. I don't know. Uh, Real quick note, you see me pouring here, and I'm just pouring one color. I'm not switching back and forth. I'm not swirling. So why in the heck am I pouring so slow? Um, I just wanted to help it cool down a little bit more. I wanted it to be starting to set up, but not seizing up. And again, like I said, the detergent-free soap bases from Wholesale Supplies Plus, and adding clay and adding glycerin to disperse the clay, which is what I'd like to use, the vegetable glycerin. All of those things together will keep a soap open for longer, will keep it liquid for longer. And then when it starts to set up, it's also going to keep it kind of gelatinous for a while. It's not going to set up to a hard soap right away. I think some of you in the past may have tried doing clay soaps and think you're adding too much, or same with glycerin, something like that, because you just didn't let it sit long enough. If you tried to unmold it like what, at the normal time period of what you would be unmolding a soap, and found it kind of squishy, or and thought it's never going to set up. It does take longer, much longer. I was able to unmold this a couple of hours after it had poured, but I probably shouldn't have. It really wasn't set up. It was gelatinous. So I was very careful. I've kind of come up with a method for myself that I can do that with, because I usually have so much going on my filming days that it's too much to wait and go home and film. I mean, go home and then come back to film the rest of it. I usually don't like to do that. So I push it a little bit, and I don't recommend that for you. I recommend a soap like this that you leave in, especially the molds that are loaf like the half one or that I have here, or full loaf, or a larger slab mold. You'd find the same thing. Small single molds like you see kind of at the very tippy top of your screen, that are the ones you're supposed to ignore because it's for another video. Those will probably set up just fine. I mean, they actually do. They harden a lot faster. But the loaves are really difficult, and I'd leave them for 24 hours. That's my recommendation. Sorry, my voice is so messed up. My allergies are a mess. And I was just fine. I actually just had a singing rehearsal about an hour ago, and I was doing just fine. And then I came in here to record, and this happened. That's fun. So my apologies. I had to grab a sip of water. So this I will say about this Illite Clay, other than the fact that it made it stay open longer and a little gelatinous looking, which is another part of why it reminded me of Velveeta cheese. It really had the texture of Velveeta cheese that maybe hasn't been put in the refrigerator yet. You know how it comes kind of warm? Yeah, here we go. That's Velveeta. It was the texture, everything. And even as I'm cutting them, it remains quite it's just not fully solidified yet. It's weird. It's not. I've had one that I cut too soon one time, and the inside was not done. It wasn't solid, and it gushed out some, and that was a big learning experience. But this isn't like that. There's nothing liquid inside. It's all just jelly like, a little bit, like almost like jello, but a little more solidified, like warm Velveeta. What I'm doing right there is also showing you that you can, because of that, it's quite flexible for some time, and you might get away with making some interesting creations that are similar to what you could do with clay soap. Not quite. You're not molding it, not, it's not that malleable, but you can certainly make twists and interesting things that if you let them set and let them set up, they will harden like that. And then you can use them in the soap that way. It's good to have it flexible for a while. Glycerin alone can help with that if you're looking to make, let's say, a roll up, roll up a sheet of soap to put in another soap as an embed. If you add just a little bit, like a teaspoon per pound, maybe, um, you'll find it rolls a little bit easier. Now, here when I stick these back together, I was very sorry because they really stuck back together, and so I end up having to kind of cut through it again in some places with these. But that's how gelatinous the Velveeta was. But it cut quite easily. Obviously, it's very soft, but nothing gushed. It is semi set up, and like I said, don't be surprised if that happens. Also, don't panic if that happens. You can just let it sit for longer. I had to push for my personal reasons. You don't have to do that. They smell incredible. It's not I don't know. I was expecting maybe a little bit more yellow, and there's a tiny little hint of orange in it, which I think is part of what gives it that Velveeta look. It's a very golden yellow. And it's not that it's not pretty, it's just not what I expected as far as the shade goes. But and especially not thinking of it looking like Velveeta, but it works for what I am doing. And especially once they set up fully and I don't have that image of the partially warmed Velveeta in my head, um, they'll be fine and wrapped and put among the other soaps I have made like this in this collection. They'll be just dandy. Um, that's one of the things we'll talk a little bit more about when we're doing the lather test is allowing it to set up enough, that kind of thing. And what other problems might you have if you add too much clay? Clay. Sorry, my voice is just going. Um, and we'll discuss that next video I do with clay soaps. Now, after that, the designer, some of the designing type soaps I have in mind with these variety of clays that I'm going to do. I believe I've told some of you before, in one of the videos at least, is I'm going to make a confetti soap and I'm going to make a landscape soap, both using clays. They'll be separate videos, and I'm looking forward to those because I already know for a fact that the confetti soaps look cool, and because I've made them in the past, these will be different colors, so it won't be exactly the same, but I know they look really neat. And we will lather test that little slice of American cheese there, as well as these and the green sea clay and the rose clay and the blue um, Cambrian blue clay and whatever else I may have done and forgotten. I am going to also be testing white kaolin clay in one of those coming up soon, and perhaps some others. Real quick, because I'm talking so much about the Velveeta that I'm forgetting to tell you that Illite clays in general are more absorbent and absorb more oil than kaolin clays and some of your other clay types. So they are known to be helpful for oily skin and acne prone skin, and they can be kind of drying if you have very dry skin. So this is something to consider in using a clay like this. Can be very helpful for some and not for others. So I hope you learned at least a little bit about yellow Illite clay other than it looks like Velveeta. Thanks so much for stopping by. Thanks. Bye.